Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Neil Kane. I will be covering Medicare and specifically Medicare Part B in today's RetFed session. A little bit about me. My name is, again, Neil Kane. I'm a certified financial planner, double up as a chartered federal employee benefits consultant. I've been working with federal employees for 18 years and really focusing on financial planning topics that intertwine and how they're related to federal employees. So let's get into it. We're not going to be covering so much the other parts of Medicare because, for the most part, federal employees really do not need to worry about Medicare Part C, as that would require suspending your FEHB coverage. Medicare Part D, prescription drug, is covered by your FEHB coverage. And additionally, Medicare Part A is an automatic insurance plan that comes at age 65 as you're paying into that as long as you have 40 quarters. So really, we're going to be talking about Medicare Part B. And the big question around Medicare Part B is why? Why do we choose to get Medicare Part B when we have one of the best health insurance packages around, which is your FEHB insurance? FEHB insurance, if you're not aware, picks up 75% of your insurance premium while you're working and carries that same subsidy into retirement. You are essentially only paying 25% of your coverage throughout your retirement. The only difference is you're paying in after-tax premiums. So why is it that so many federal employees get Medicare Part B? Medicare Part B is federal health insurance. Okay. For the most part, it is the insurance that widely everybody uses at age 65 or older. However, most people don't have health insurance plans that continue with them into retirement after they're done working, let alone ones that subsidize 75% of that premium. So when it comes to Medicare Part B, for the most part, the coverage covers really all of the things that are normally covered under a medical health insurance plan. There's some differences for Medicare Part B, maybe some things like prosthetic limbs, other equipment that Medicare might cover that FEHB doesn't. But for the most part, they're very similar, right? Medicare Part B comes with an extra cost. It starts at $175 a month. From there, it increases as your income increases as a federal retiree. For folks that believe that their income is fixed in retirement because they're on Social Security and pension, think again. Your distributions that are required from your traditional TSP at the age of 73 also create income. So if you decide to not take Medicare Part B, and decide that you want it later, you will be faced with a 10% penalty for every 12-month period you wait. So that's why this is such a big decision and why it has to be done promptly. There's an initial enrollment period, 3 months before your 65th birthday, 3 months after, right? And then the 1 month in between, which is your birthday month. Now, if you're 65 and you are still working, do you have to take Medicare Part B and pay for it at that moment? No. If you are still working and covered by your group health insurance plan, which is essentially your FEHB, you can wait until after retirement. Additionally, if your spouse is covered by your work plan, they can wait until after you retired as well. They do not need to take it. Then you and your spouse will be on what's called an 8-month window. That 8-month window is called the special enrollment period. After that 8 months is done, you'll have made your decision because there will be a 10% accruing penalty from there on. So if you decide to get Medicare with your FEHB, what then happens? Well, essentially what happens is Medicare takes on the full load. Medicare takes on 80% of your expenses, medical expenses in retirement. So essentially, they become the primary insurer. FEHB becomes the secondary. For that reason, FEHB will also cover deductibles, co-payments, and co-insurance pretty much leaving you with no out-of-pocket expenses in retirement when it comes to medical. This is called wraparound coverage. So it's really the holy grail of both insurances, right? But that comes at a cost. And FEHB understands that they no longer really have to share the heavy load of your medical expenses. So what are they going to do? They're going to give you a reimbursement. First of all, you're going to be required to go from standard to basic for this reimbursement. But once that happens, you're eligible for a reimbursement for Blue Cross Blue Shield for $800, and then Aetna is $900. If you want to know more about how your individual plan interfaces, go to section 9 of your FEHB pamphlet. That will show you how that interfaces together. So let's now talk about, well, okay, I get it. I get the wraparound coverage. I get why that's great. But I also understand that I have to pay $175 extra each, me and my spouse, a month if I have one. And I'm getting a kickback of $800, let's say on Blue Cross. That's about $65 a month. Okay. So at $65 a month, you're essentially paying $110 extra per person in that scenario. What happens if I decide I don't want to pay that extra? What happens then? Well, in that case, FEHB will cover up to the amount that Medicare would pay as soon as you're eligible for Medicare, as long as you're within a preferred network. Okay. Now, in this scenario, what happens if your doctor charges more than the Medicare approved amount? Well, technically speaking, there's a rule in place called the excess charge or limiting charge that disallows doctors to charge you once you turn 65 over 115% of the Medicare approved amount. So in scenario 1, in that first paragraph, you'd be on the hook for about 15% extra on top of that Medicare approved amount if your doctor charged that. In addition, your deductibles, coinsurance, and copayments. Scenario 2, what happens if you're out of network? Well, if you're out of network, you're kind of out of luck, right? Essentially, you're responsible for the full cost of that Medicare approved amount in that scenario. Now, what happens if your doctor is out of network and doesn't accept Medicare? Then you'd be responsible for the 115%. That would be the Medicare approved amount plus that 15% excess charge. So those are how those scenarios would play out if you decided to not get Medicare Part B. You would be a little bit at risk there for extra costs, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. We see a lot of federal employees still decided not get Medicare Part B, even though the majority choose to do so. Why do folks not get Medicare Part B? It just comes down to expenses. When you look at the premium brackets for the income basis, you'll see how easily in some cases you can drift into $350 a month, $450 a month. And if you believe that your income, again, is just stable, you have to look at all of those pieces that come in, including those thrift withdrawals. Additionally, there are other pieces that are constituted as income, which I will actually be talking about in our next video. So if you thought that this video was interesting, but you want a little more information and you want some one-on-one help, you can scan the QR code here on your smartphone, register for an appointment with our office, and we'll do a 1-hour Zoom session that's complimentary. At the end of this, we ask every person that's tuning in, if you like this video, hit the like button on your YouTube channel. Also, feel free to share our YouTube channel, subscribe to our channel, and make sure you're liking our videos so that they get the algorithm going to the rest of the federal folks out there. Thanks again for listening in, and please tune in on the next video where I will be explaining Medicare premiums, how they're charged, how you can drift into higher ones when you are on your TSP, required minimum distributions, and how other income gets assessed towards your Medicare premium. Thanks again.